to this week's Project MK Gotcha. As always, here with us is...
Drunk Chris.
and Carrie. Which is weird, because normally when there's a drunk Chris, there's a drunk Carrie. It's a weird juxtaposition this week.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird anachronism. How'd that happen? It was kind of like...
Because I was being the designated driver for you and your cousin's little beer fest.
Our future co-host.
A future co-host. A future potential...
He was very knowledgeable about serial killers and...
Yes, he has serial killers, cereals. That's the only credentials you really need to be on the show. So, possible guest host, maybe, future, possibly. So how was your Thanksgiving? I haven't really seen you.
Oh my god. Yeah, we ate all the shit. We had this turkey. It was a drunk turkey. It was brined in brine and maple syrup and bourbon. Ooh. And not like a shot of bourbon, like half a bottle. Like you could taste
it?
Yeah.
Oh shit, that sounds...
It was amazing.
And that sounds amazing.
Yeah, and then it was like smoked. Yeah. And then
damn.
Every vegetable covered in butter. Pretty amazing.
Pretty delightful. Just, yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, you had a non-traditional Thanksgiving.
I did. We decided to go to Vegas for Thanksgiving. So for Thanksgiving, I had Memphis dry rub turkey from... I think it was called like Hattie Mae's or something. It was like this barbecue joint. It was good. Like it was dank. Because like we obviously wanted to go to the buffets because we're two fat kids that love so much. So we tried to go to the buffets, and every single buffet we went to had a 3.5 hour wait. And so we were like, fuck this. We're heading to the barbecue joint. It had like the shortest line. So that was at the Palms. So we ate Thanksgiving dinner at the Palms, and then we won lots of money, and then we came home.
Playing blackjack, right?
Yeah, I made like $450. I was pretty hyped. Like I was up, like, up and down. I came out up like $450. There were a couple times I probably should have just like cashed out, taken my winnings. But... Okay,
so let's say you have a 16 and the dealer is showing a 10. What do you do?
Well, it's a 10, so she doesn't have a bus. They don't have a bus card. But if somebody else at the head table has 21, so they're going to have to do a hard hit anyway. Because the dealer has to hit until they get 17.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so if I have a 16, I'm probably going to stay. And try to trick me. I know.
No. I mean, the book says you're supposed to hit in that case. But
no.
It's kind of a douche. No, I'm telling you.
You're supposed to hit at 15, right? If it's like...
If the dealer's showing a 10, because you assume the dealer...
Well, yeah, they're probably statistically going to have a card
20,
that's... Yeah.
So, but like people get mad at you if you like hit a 16. They're like, you took my break card. What's up, bro?
Yeah, no, we played pretty smart. We luckily, the very first night we were there, sat next to like the blackjack messiah. And he just like taught us like everything. And this guy definitely, like if you sit down next to a man who is drinking a michelada at 2 p.m., reeks of Jameson, and just skin color is just completely red from alcoholism, that's the dude you want to sit next to in the casino and teach you how to play blackjack. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so what else is going on? So my arm finally healed. So I got back to Derby this week. That's exciting. Oh, awesome.
Just in time for me to get injured.
Oh, yeah. Poor Christopher is on crutches right now, you guys, and it's a real sad sight to see him struggle to walk.
I'm very skilled on crutches. Okay, I'm very injury prone.
Yeah. You think you would be good at crutches by now.
I'm pretty good.
Oh, you know what else we didn't mention last week? The fact that I got engaged.
Oh my god.
Shout out to Alex Cruz for popping the question. Let's just talk about
Thank you for all the retweets and also for the big ass rock.
Yeah, thanks for promoting the podcast, babe. Appreciate you. So that's what's been going on in our lives. I hope everybody had a good holiday and we're safe and made good choices. It's really sad when you go to Vegas and obviously, Vegas in my youth was quite a shit show. We won't go into details about that.
By youth, do you mean like 2 years ago?
Yeah, like 4 years ago. And then this time we went, I was in bed by literally 12:30 every night. I was in my hotel room by midnight. And then we would just sit and Oh my God, I can't even talk. I'm not even the drunk one. What is happening? I can't talk.
Age. Age is a harsh mistress. I'm telling you. I'm
She's
35.
Cruel
I
bitch.
can't even dance without breaking my fucking knee.
Yeah, just to give a little background on Christopher's injury, this isn't the first time he's broken his knee dancing. This is now becoming like an annual tradition.
I'm sorry I have so much passion for my art form. Okay?
I just feel bad that you go down hard when you're just trying to cut a rug. Poor thing.
Not every time. Like once a year.
Once a year. All right. So, I know we've been doing a lot of true crime lately, so I kind of wanted to switch things up and do something kind of fun, but like spooky. But there's one true crime kind of update I do want to go into because this is a recent Washington Post article. This is by Antonia Nori Farzan. And this is on... Basically, the headline is, "You're not a serial killer, right?" She texted before she died. Prosecutors say that's exactly what he was. So this is pretty crazy. So I'm going to read through this article. Again, this is Washington Post by Antonia Farzan. And so I'm totally stealing this from her, but she's a much better writer than I am. So Sarah Butler was nervous. The 20-year-old college student had borrowed the keys to her mother's van, explaining she wanted to meet up with a friend while home in Montclair, New Jersey over Thanksgiving break. We've all been there. You're home for Thanksgiving, you're a college student, you're like, fuck, let me borrow the keys, Mom. This was me, definitely, as a 20-year-old. That was just me. That wasn't what the Washington Post said. That was just my own 2 cents. But anyway, what she didn't mention though was that the friend was an online acquaintance offering to pay her $500 for sex. She had backed out of meeting him in person before, but this time she planned to go through with it. "You're not a serial killer, right?" she messaged him right before leaving the house. Khalil Wheeler.
Because you have to tell me if you are.
Right? It's like you're an undercover
it's like
cop.
amendment or something, right?
Yeah, I just hate that though, because you like, as a girl, like before every like online date or like before you get into any like Lyft or Uber, that's always like in the back of your mind, like, is this person gonna kill me? Like it just that's what resonated with me so much about this case, because like it's always in the back of your mind as a woman, like, is this person gonna attack me? You know, like, what's gonna happen? Anyway, so Khalil Wheeler Weaver was exactly that, prosecutors said on Thursday. Oh, sorry, this article came out November 11th of 2019. The 23-year-old is accused of murdering 3 women and attempting to kill a 4th, authorities say. Butler was his final victim. Before the two met on November 22nd, 2016, he searched the internet for information about date rape drugs and homemade poison, according to the North Jersey Record. 10 days later, Butler's body was found in a nature reserve covered with leaves and debris. She had been strangled. According to prosecutors, Wheeler Weaver targeted young black women who turned to sex work while coping with mental health issues or homelessness. His thinking, authorities say, was that no one would notice if they disappeared. They were viewed as somehow less than human, less valuable, Essex County Assistant Prosecutor Adam Wells said last month. Butler, a longtime lifeguard at a local YMCA and a second-year student at New Jersey City University, who was known for her talents as a dancer, was something of an exception. After she disappeared, her friends and family launched a sting operation that led authorities to identify Wheeler Weaver as a prime suspect in the months-long crime rampage that took place in abandoned houses and budget motels across northern New Jersey. Wheeler Weaver has admitted he was with each of the murder victims shortly before they disappeared, but denies responsibility for their deaths, NJ.com reported. His attorney contended that the victims put themselves in vulnerable positions and point out that Wheeler Weaver cooperated with investigators, which they argue is not the conduct of a guilty individual. He told police he had last seen them and that they were alive and safe. His public defender, Deirdre McMahon said in court last month, according to NJ.com. What happened to them afterwards is not at the hands of Mr. Wheeler Weaver. So this guy was the last person to see 4 different victims before they were attacked or killed. But there's no correlation. That's some like lawyer shit. He should be the
primary suspect, and there's like a pattern of behavior. And also, Jersey.
Also, them search results, though. Like, what a fucking idiot. With a carefully trimmed beard and rectangular glasses that give him the effect of a graduate student, Wheeler Weaver doesn't look like someone who would have done something like this. Wells acknowledged during a court hearing last month. After the first of his alleged victims, 19-year-old Robin West, was found dead in September 2016, police described him as a calm and helpful witness who gladly answered their questions. West, a Philadelphia native who struggled with mental health issues and left home at a young age, was days away from celebrating her 20th birthday when she vanished, alarming her family when she failed to respond to their message about party plans. On September 1st, 2016, authorities got a call about a fire in an abandoned house in Orange, New Jersey. Inside, they found the 19-year-old's body, which was so badly scorched that it took nearly 2 weeks to identify her through dental records. When questioned by police, Wheeler Weaver said he had taken West out to eat the day that she disappeared. Then he claimed he dropped her off in a different abandoned house roughly 2 blocks away from where the fire started. While investigators were puzzling over the crime, another woman disappeared. Joanne Brown, who had been grappling with homelessness and mental health issues, was seen getting into Wheeler Weaver's car before she was reported missing in October 2016. Less than 2 months later, a work crew found the 33-year-old's remains inside yet another vacant house in Orange. Her nose and mouth were covered with tape and a jacket was tied around her neck. She had been strangled. By the time Brown's body was found, another woman had come forward describing a terrifying encounter with Wheeler Weaver. The woman, who was 34 at the time and is only identified as TT in court documents, had turned to sex work after becoming homeless. By November 15, 2016, though, she was several months pregnant and was looking for another way to make money. She told authorities that she agreed to have sex with Wheeler Weaver, but actually planned on tricking him and taking his cash. The two met up at a cheap motel in Elizabeth, New Jersey, then left in Wheeler Weaver's car. In court last month, the woman testified that Weaver, clad in a ski mask, handcuffed her and covered her mouth with duct tape before raping her in the back seat and almost strangling her to death. She repeatedly lost consciousness, she said, but she woke up long enough to formulate an escape plan. Using quick thinking, she convinced Weaver to take her back to the motel where she had left her cell phone, then locked him out of the room while she dialed 911. But police who responded to the call were more interested in figuring out if she was a prostitute.
Oh my God.
I know.
Priorities?
Right? I mean, this is the same fucking pattern we've been seeing since the fucking dawn of time. According to NJ.com, an officer from the Elizabeth Police Department who was called to testify said that he initially didn't believe the woman when she called to report a kidnapping because she had waited an hour to do so. Okay, I didn't realize there was an hour statute on fucking attempted kidnapping.
Wait, what? The statute of limitations is 1
hour?
No,
they were just being assholes. They said that they didn't believe her because because I guess they were like, when did this happen?
Fucking dominoes? Like, oh, you took an hour. Sorry.
Yeah, so they just didn't believe her. And it was also because she was a prostitute, or could have been doing sex work, not prostitute, sorry. Months would pass. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Months would pass before Weaver was arrested on attempted murder charges. On November 22nd, 2016, exactly 1 week after TT told authorities about her frightening encounter, he met up with Butler in Orange. So literally this victim comes forward and they're more enthralled with the fact that she is a sex worker or she waited too long and didn't believe her. And pretty much, I mean, they let him go. And as a result of that, he killed Butler a week later. So
wow, so they got so tied up in these minute technicalities that another person died.
Well, they just look for an excuse to fucking dismiss women at a drop of a fucking hat. So, I
guess that's not new.
Yeah, definitely not new. It's the same pattern we unfortunately see over and over again in true crime cases. When the college sophomore didn't return home the next morning and wasn't answering her phone, her family panicked and called the police. On December 1st, 2016, Butler's body was found in a nature preserve, confirming their worst fears. It took just 5 days for police to arrest Weaver and charge him in connection with her murder. Prosecutors revealed in court last month that Butler's parents, sisters, and friends had taken matters into their own hands, logging on to the 20-year-old's social media accounts to see whom she had been talking with before she disappeared. On a controversial social networking app called Tagged, which has been linked to sex crimes and criticized for it taking a lax approach to child pornography, they found her messages with Weaver. Butler's friends and family created a fake profile on the site using the promise of sex to lure Weaver into an in-person meetup. When he arrived, prosecutors say he found himself face-to-face with the police. So really, this family is the one that brought this case to a head, not even the cops. The family had to literally do their own secret ops mission to even fucking get the cops on this dude's radar.
They had to do all the legwork and be like, yeah.
All the legwork.
We did. Here's the file. Literally take the file to the judge.
Right. Sarah's friends and family are the heroes in this case, Will said last month, according to the record. Authorities found Weaver had conducted a slew of disturbing online searches before meeting Butler, including how to make homemade poisons to kill humans, and what chemical could you put on a rag to hold somebody's face and make them go to sleep immediately.
And also...
It's a highly specific string of searches.
Judges? What is chloroform?
Oh my god, it's so specific.
It's like Family Feud.
Like Jesus.
It was pineapple belonging on pizza.
He had reportedly researched how household chemicals like bleach and ammonia could be used to kill someone, and if it was possible to erase your phone data and avoid being tracked. Like, no. Hello, Google search.
The answer is no.
Have you heard of a fucking public library? Like, bro, why did you use your own...
Well, I'm sorry. What year is this taking place, or what era?
The murders happened in 2016.
Oh, it's super recent.
Yeah, he's just on trial now, which is why they wrote about it.
Oh,
so
wow.
His trial literally just started. So another search for a practice test for the police entrance exam suggested Weaver, who had been working as a grocery store security guard, hoped to become a police officer. That prospect became increasingly unlikely as Weaver faced a mounting series of criminal charges linking him to the two other women's deaths. His phone records contradicted his story about the last time he had seen West, according to prosecutors who contended that Weaver was at the same house where her body was found shortly before it went up in flames. After driving off, he reportedly returned to the neighborhood and watched as the firefighters tried to subdue the blaze. Cell phone records also showed Wheeler Weaver as the last person to call Brown before she disappeared. Authorities say he picked her up and brought her to the vacant house where her body was later found and spent about an hour there with her before leaving her. In February 2017, Weaver was indicted on 3 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder stemming from the near-fatal attack in Elizabeth. He had also been charged with the desecration of human remains, aggravated arson, aggravated sexual assault, and kidnapping. His trial in the Superior Court of Essex County, New Jersey, is slated to continue this week, which would have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. Too many of the victims' families, the gruesome details that authorities have revealed so far are baffling. Weaver was shockingly young at the time when the attacks allegedly occurred and hardly fits the profile of a serial killer. I need to know what happened to him. What caused him to snap like this? Leroy West, the father of Robin West, told WHYY in 2017. I've been face-to-face with him in court, and I'm looking at a handsome young man. I'm thinking, why would you need to go out and track these young women and murder them? And that's the story of Khalid Wheeler Weaver, which is a current ongoing court case. So, like I said, I didn't want to do anything true crime because we're doing a lot of true crime lately, and that's not like our main objective. So I did want to go over that just because it's recent, and also just like as a woman, that text message, like, you're not a serial killer, it just struck such
I feel like that hits really close to home.
Yeah, totally. So as a little palate cleanser from that, we're gonna do something weird and spooky, and I'm really excited. Are you guys ready for the story the story, the legend, the history of the Mothman.
Oh, is that movie where like Nick Cage, like they put a cage on his face and then they like put bees into the cage and he's like, no, not the bees.
No, that's Wicker Man.
Okay.
This is Richard Gere, sexy salt and pepper hair. You know Richard Gere? Pretty Woman?
Of course.
Chicago.
Shut up.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
he's the main character in the movie of this, but the movie actually comes from a real book that was written about this. So do you know anything about the Mothman? Just before we go into this, have you ever heard this story?
I've heard the title.
I know you've heard me talk about it because as far as cryptozoology goes, I think Mothman's my favorite cryptid out of like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness, those kinds of things.
I did minor in cryptozoology in college.
Dude, if they had a fucking cryptozoology minor at VCU, you know I would have taken that shit. Fuck my minor in business. Okay. So I'm totally stealing this entire article from AmericanHauntingsInc.com, and it's Inc like INK.com, not INC. And definitely check them out because they have really awesome stories on hauntings all over the United States. A lot of it is like ghost related, but they said that they just couldn't skip out on this one because it's just such a huge case. It affected so many people. There's so many witnesses. It's so well documented. Like, you just can't ignore the Mothman. And I'm really excited because Christopher doesn't know this story.
It doesn't seem very intimidating. If you think of the most intimidating creatures, like a moth is probably like near the bottom.
Yeah, but have you seen pictures of the Mothman? They have a statue built to him in West Virginia. I'll show you the statue at the end.
Oh, okay.
I'll show you. It's hella fucking scary. So anyway, Mothman, as a strange creature, became... Ugh, oh my God, you guys, I'm really sorry. I can't talk today. I swear I haven't been drinking. This is just Carrie at 100.
Tell it to the judge.
I think it's because I went back to drinking.
I hope your mom's not listening.
My mom does listen. Hi, Betty. Hi. Your daughter's actually being responsible and drove Christopher home because he's drunk and also injured.
Why don't you do the alphabet backwards?
Z-Y... Oh, Z-X-Y-V-W-U-T-S. So first of all, that was just like a total trap that they did that to people. Yeah. Like, what in the hell? All right. Anyway, sorry, guys. We're just a little sidetracked. Mothman, as the strange creature came to be called, is perhaps one of the strangest creatures ever to grace the annals of weirdness in America.
Annals?
A-N-N-A-L-S?
Annals?
Annals? Whatever.
Annals.
Even though this mysterious and unsolved case has nothing to do with ghosts, it would be a miss of me to not include it in a section of the website about the unexplained. Again, this is AmericanHauntingsInc.com. Check them out. They have tons of great information. The weird events connected to the Mothman began. Oh, this is another reason I wanted to do it is because...
Irregardless.
Yeah. The other reason I wanted to do this is because the anniversary of this just passed.
Ooh.
Yeah. So the weird events connected to the Mothman began on November 12th, 1966, near Clendenin, West Virginia. 5 men were in the local cemetery that day preparing a grave for burial when something that looked like a brown human being lifted off from some nearby trees and flew over their heads. The men were baffled. It did not appear to be a bird, but more like a man with wings. A few days later, more sightings would take place, electrifying the region. Late in the evening of November 15th, 2 young married couples had a very strange encounter as they drove past an abandoned TNT plant near Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The couple spotted 2 large eyes that were attached to something that was shaped like a man.
It was a cat.
No, it was shaped like a man, but bigger, maybe 6 or 7 feet tall. And it had big...
Mouth line.
No, and it had big wings folded against its back. I mean, it could have been an owl, I guess. When the creature moved towards the plant door, the couple panicked and sped away. Moments later, they saw the same creature on a hillside near the road. It spread its wings and rose into the air, following the car, which was now traveling at 100 miles per hour. That bird kept right up with us, said one of the group. They told Deputy Sheriff Millard Halstead that it followed them down from Highway 62 right to the Point Pleasant city limits, and they would not be the only ones to report the same creature that night. Another group of 4 witnesses claimed to see the bird 3 different times. So these reports are pouring into the local police. This was before Twitter and before freaking social media. Nobody knew that anybody else had reported these.
So it was 4 corroborating reports all in the same night, reporting the same thing.
Yes, seeing the same creature.
Okay.
Another sighting had even more bizarre results. At about 10:30 on that same evening, Newell Partridge, a local building contractor who lived in Salem, and just for reference, Salem is about 90 miles from Point Pleasant. He was watching TV when suddenly the screen went dark and it became like it had interference, right? It was weird. He stated that it was a weird pattern that filled the screen, and then he heard a loud whining sound that raised in pitch and then ceased. It sounded like a generator winding up, he later stated. Partridge's dog, Bandit, began to howl out on the front porch, and Newell went out to see what was going on. When he walked outside, he saw Bandit facing the hay barn about 150 yards from the house. Puzzled, Partridge turned a flashlight in the direction and spotted 2 red circles that looked like eyes or bicycle reflectors. The moving red orbs were certainly not animals' eyes, he believed, and the sight of them frightened him. Bandit, an experienced hunting dog and protective of his territory, shot off across the yard in pursuit of the glowing eyes. Partridge called for him to stop, but the animal paid no attention. His owner turned and went back in the house for his gun, but then was too scared to go back outside again. He slept that night with his gun propped up next to his bed. The next morning, he realized Bandit had disappeared. The dog had still not shown up 2 days later when Partridge read in the newspaper about the sightings in Point Pleasant that night.
He ate the dog.
I think so. So sad.
This is supposed to be a happy story.
This is it's not. No, I didn't say it was a happy story. It's just not serial rape and murder for a change. One state. Okay, so they got all these reports in, right? And that was before it even got in the newspaper. So there was no newspaper, radio, anything. These were just people calling in the cops because they were like, we're seeing this crazy shit.
Oh, yeah. What year is this happening?
1966.
Oh, okay. Way back. Okay.
Yeah, and these are small town, hardworking, conservative people. These aren't people that were like
hippy dippy.
Yeah, they weren't smoking. Yeah, they weren't smoking spliffs or anything.
Smoking the wacky tobacco. And taking microdoses of mushrooms and acid.
Yeah, I mean, acid was just becoming big at this era, but I can tell you that it definitely wasn't big in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. One statement. Okay, so his dog goes missing, this crazy shit happens, and then the newspaper comes out and he's like, oh shit, other people are seeing this stuff. So one statement that he read in the newspaper chilled him to the bone. Keep in mind, he hasn't talked to none of the witnesses know each other. They haven't talked to each other. And this dude lives an hour and a half away. One statement that he read, this is so sad. One statement he read in the newspaper chilled him to the bone. Roger Scareberry. It's Scarberry. I was like, Scareberry is the fakest name I've heard this side of porn.
He's friends with Count Chocula.
Roger Scarberry, one member of the group who spotted the strange bird at the TNT plant, said that as they entered the city limits of Point Pleasant, they saw the body of a large dog lying on the side of the road. A few minutes later, on their way back out of town, the dog was gone. They even stopped to look for the body, knowing they had just passed it a few minutes before. Newell Partridge immediately thought of Bandit, who was never seen again.
You should have left that part out. Let's remove that post.
I mean, it's important part of this. I guess it's not really that important part of the story, but it's relevant. On November 16th, a press conference was held in the county court. This is how crazy the show was. A press conference was held in the county courthouse, and the couples from the TNT plant sighting repeated their story. Deputy Halstead, who had known the couples for all their lives, took them very seriously. They have never been in any trouble, he told investigators, and had no reason to doubt their stories. Many reporters who were present for the weird recounting felt the same way. The news of the strange sightings spread around the world. The press dubbed the odd flying creature Mothman after a character from the popular Batman. Oh my God, I said that so weird. Batman television series
What is
of
that,
the
like
day.
the UK?
Batman. Which is crazy. I didn't know that was a Batman character. I'll have to look up what the Batman version of Mothman looked like.
I mean, it seems like a lame villain.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Oh, side note, I watched this thing on TV the other day, and it was about how this guy was spying on the Ku Klux Klan. Like, he joined as like a fake member, and he was selling all their secrets to Superman writers when they had Superman radio show in like the 50s. And so they just roasted the shit out of the KKK to the point that they like it ruined their good time. And I just thought that was really funny how Superman beat the KKK in real life. You have to look it up. It's really interesting.
I feel like that an anchored episode or like a segment.
Oh yeah, we'll have to totally do like a weird Superman or superhero episode. The remote and abandoned TNT plant became the lair of the Mothman in the months ahead, and it could not have picked a better place to hide in. The area was made up of several hundred acres of woods and large concrete domes where high explosives were stored during World War II. A network of tunnels honeycombed the area and made it possible for the creature to move without being seen. In addition to the man-made labyrinth, the area was also comprised of the McClintock Wildlife Station, a heavily forested animal preserve filled with woods, artificial ponds, and steep ridges and hills. Much of the property was almost inaccessible without a doubt. Mothman could have hid for weeks or months and remained totally unseen. The only people who ever wandered there onto the land were hunters and fishermen and the local teenagers who used the dirt roads of the preserve as lovers' lanes. Very few homes could be found in the region, but one dwelling belonged to the Ralph Thomas family. On November 16th, they put one. I didn't do that. On November 16th, they spotted a funny red light in the sky that moved and hovered about the TNT plant. It wasn't an airplane, said Miss Marcella Bennett, a friend of the Thomas family. But we couldn't figure out what it was. Miss Bennett drove to the Thomases' house a few minutes later and got out of the car with her baby. Suddenly, a figure stirred near the automobile. It seemed as though it had been lying down, she recalled. It rose up slowly from the ground, a big gray thing, bigger than a man with a terrible red glowing eyes. Miss Bennett, who was so horrified, dropped her baby. She quickly recovered, picked her child up, and ran to the house. The family locked everyone inside, but hysteria gripped them as the creature shuffled onto the porch and peered into the windows. The police were summoned, but the Mothman had vanished by the time the authorities arrived. Miss Bennett would not recover from the incident for months and was in fact so distraught that she sought medical attention to deal with her anxieties. She was tormented by frightening dreams and later told investigators she believed the creature had visited her own home too. She said that she could often hear a kneeing sound like a woman screaming near her isolated home on the edge of Point Pleasant. Many would come to believe that the sightings of the Mothman, as well as UFO sightings and encounters with men in black in the area, were all related. For nearly a year, strange happenings continued in the area. Researchers, investigators, and monster hunters descended on the area, but none so famous as the author John Keel, who has written extensively about the Mothman and other unexplained anomalies. He has written for many years about UFOs, but dismissed the standard extraterrestrial theories of the mainstream UFO movement. For this reason, he has been a controversial figure for decades. According to Keel, man has a long history of interaction with the supernatural. He believes that the intervention of mysterious strangers in the lives of historic personages like Thomas Jefferson and Malcolm X provides existence of the continuing presence of gods of old. That's a quotation, the gods of old. The manifestation of these elder gods comes in the form of UFO, aliens, monsters, demons, angels, and even ghosts. He has remained a colorful character to many, and yet remains respected in the field of research and fascinating writing. Yeah, so there's
like ancient gods like Ra, and
you know who the Green Man is? He's like seen through. Well, there's like this old god called the Green Man. Cthulhu was created by H.P. Lovecraft. It wasn't part of mythology.
Oh, really?
He wasn't a god.
Oh.
Yeah,
Anyway.
No, that was just by a sci-fi writer. So anyway, what I want to talk about, then this is just my own little side note. So, have you seen the show Hellier on Amazon? Well, they just came. I already know that you haven't, but they just came out with season 2, and it deals with all this shit. So basically, it's like these researchers go and hang out in the Appalachian Mountains where like all this weird shit's going on and like investigate it, and they think that like all these things are related because like I said, like they brought up in this article, like the Mothman was also seen with weird lights in the sky. There were UFO sightings. There was abduction cases really close to this point in time in West Virginia. There was a potential UFO crash that happened just over the Pennsylvania-West Virginia border at that time. Like all this weird shit was happening, right? There was like Bigfoot sightings. So they think that they're all like related. And like one of their theories is like, so through the Appalachian Mountains, there's a huge cave system called the Mammoth Cave System. And they think that that has something to do with it. So Hellier season 2 just came out and I binged it in like fucking day because it was so good. And the reason that I was really drawn to that show is like at first I was just watching it like, oh, it's just like a ghost hunting show, whatever. Like it started with like this goblin case. These people kept being like, these weird fucking creatures are coming to a house, we don't know what's going on, they're coming out of the mines, because we know West Virginia, Ohio, all those areas were old mining places on top of having caves.
This is a modern show?
Yes, this literally just came out.
Yeah, do they have any like smartphone footage?
Yeah, they have like every just hear me out. So the reason I was drawn to the show and was kind of like, these people are not full of shit, is I never told anybody this story. But okay, so like there's certain phenomena that keep happening in these areas. Like they'll hear babies crying in like the woods, or like there's weird military presence. Like and you can look this up. Like after that UFO crash and like the abduction with the 2 people from West Virginia in the 60s or whatever, the military like swarmed on these towns, like, and were very obvious about it. Like military trucks, scientists, people in hazmat suits, like all these shit came out, right? Are you following me?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah, so there's like, okay, so what caught my eye is the very first episode of Hellier season 1, they start talking about the baby crying in the woods phenomenon, which is linked to weird paranormal things, and then like the weird.
I've heard that could be like a fox,
and like
certain animals.
Okay, but hear me out. And then also the weird military presence. I never told it. Okay, so it all clicked for me when they said that, right? Okay, so when I was younger and we used to go to like sleepaway camp, it was in the Appalachian Mountains, in between Blacksburg and Christiansburg, and there was one night where the next day my best friend went with me. The next day at breakfast, she's like really tired, and our counselor's like, "What's wrong with you?" Like she was afraid, she was like homesick or something. She was like, "Are you okay? Why didn't you sleep?" And she was like, "I just kept hearing this baby crying in the woods like all night." And then we were like 11 or 12, and then the counselor was like, "Huh, that's weird." And then at the end of the week, like right before our parents came to pick us up, she was like, "Hey, I want to show you guys something," the counselor. And we were like, "Okay." And like she took us into like this brush that was literally like 10 feet from like our breakfast table, and like pulled back the brush, and there was a fucking baby tombstone there. like a baby that died at like 4 months old. So that happened. And then I remembered something else. So I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, and a lot of people like to go hike and fish and just explore through the woods. So a couple of my friends had gone, and I didn't believe them at the time. I thought they were totally full of shit. They were fishing, and this was either in Catawba or Tinker Mountain. It was one of those mountains. And they were just up there fishing, and they just decided to like fuck around through the woods. They were probably like drinking or smoking or whatever, just hanging out. And they stumbled upon a fucking military base, and these guys with like AK-47s were like, "You guys better get the fuck up out of here." And I never believed them until like I started seeing like more and more military like trucks on the interstate, and I'm like, we're not even near a military base. Like, where are these things going?
Yeah, it's like there's no strategic.
Yeah, so when I started watching this show, and they started like saying all these things, and they were clicking in my head, I was like, holy shit, I've actually experienced some of these things, like myself.
Yeah, that's crazy. That show, like 25, 30 years later. Well, you're not 30,
Yeah,
but they're resonating
right.
with experiences from your childhood.
Yeah, which is crazy because I'd never even really told anybody that story about like the baby in the woods crying all night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking weird. Okay. So Keel became the major chronicler of the Mothman case and wrote that at least 100 people personally witnessed the creature between November 1966 and November 1967. According to the reports, the creature stood between 5 and 7 feet tall, was wider than a man, and shuffled on human-like legs. Its eyes were near set at the top of its shoulders, and it had bat-like wings that glided rather than flapped when it flew. Strangely, though, it was able to ascend straight up like a helicopter. Witnesses also described its murky skin as either being gray or brown, and it emitted a humming sound when it flew. The Mothman was apparently incapable of speech and gave off a screeching sound. Miss Bennett stated that it sounded like a screaming woman. John Keel arrived in Point Pleasant in December 1966 and immediately began collecting reports of the Mothman sightings and even UFO reports from before the creature was started. So, like, even before the Mothman popped up, like, this site was very, like, this area had a lot of UFO reports. He compiled evidence that suggested a problem with television and phones began in the fall of 1966. Lights had been seen in the sky, particularly around the TNT plant, and the cars that passed along the nearby roads sometimes stalled without explanation. He and his fellow researchers also uncovered a number of short-lived poltergeist cases in the Ohio Valley area. Locked doors opening and closing by themselves, strange thumps were heard inside and outside of homes, often inexplicable voices were heard. The James Lilly family, who lived just south of the TNT plant, were so bothered by the bizarre events that they finally sold their house and moved to another neighborhood. Keel was convinced that the intense period of activity was all connected. And stranger things still took place. A reporter named Mary Heer, who was the Point Pleasant correspondent for the Athens, Ohio newspaper, The Messenger, also wrote extensively about local sightings. In fact, after one very active weekend, she was bombarded with over 500 phone calls from people who saw strange lights in the sky. One night in January 1967, she was working late in her office in the county courthouse when a man walked in the door. He was very short. He had very strange eyes that were covered in thick glasses. He also had long black hair that was cut squarely like a bowl cut. Heer said that he spoke in a low, halting voice and asked for directions to Welsh, West Virginia. She thought he had some sort of speech impediment, and for some reason, he terrified her. He kept getting closer and closer to me, he said. His eyes were fun, and his funny eyes were staring at me almost hypnotically. Alarmed, she summoned the newspaper circulation manager to her office, and together they spoke to the strange little man. Their words, not mine. She said at one point in the discussion, she answered the telephone when it rang, and she noticed the little man pick up a pen from her desk. He looked at it in amazement, as if he had never seen a pen before. Then he grabbed the pen, laughed loudly, and ran out of the building. Ran out of the building. Several weeks later, Heer was crossing the street near her office when she saw the same man on the street. He appeared to be startled when he realized that she was watching him and turned away quickly and ran for a large black car that suddenly came around the corner. The little man climbed in and quickly drove away. It's the fucking Men in Black, dude. We got to do an episode on Men in Black. It's fascinating. By this time, most of the sightings had come to an end, and Mothman had faded away into the strange twilight zone from which it had come. But the story of Point Pleasant had not yet ended. Around 5 in the evening on December 15, 1967, the 700-foot bridge linking Point Pleasant to Ohio suddenly collapsed while filled with cars at rush hour traffic.
Oh my God.
Dozens of vehicles plunged into the dark waters of the Ohio River, and 46 people were killed. 2 of those people were never found, and the other 44 are buried together in the town cemetery. On that tragic night, the James Lilly family, who still lived near the TNT plant at the time, counted more than 12 eerie lights that flashed above their home and vanished into the forest. The collapse of the Silver Bridge made headlines all over the country, and Mary Heer went days without sleep as reporters and television crews from everywhere descended on the town. Local citizens were stunned with horror and disbelief, and the tragedy is still being felt today. During Christmas week, a short, dark-skinned man entered the office of Mary here. He was dressed in a black suit and a black tie, and she said that he looked vaguely Oriental. He had high cheekbones and narrow eyes and an unidentifiable accent. He was not interested in the bridge disaster, she said, but
well, it must be Oriental.
But wanted to know about local UFO sightings. Here was too busy to talk with him, and she handed him a file of press clippings instead. He was not interested in them and insisted on speaking with her. She finally dismissed him from her office. That same night, an identically described man visited the homes of several witnesses in the area who had reported seeing the lights in the sky. He made them all very uneasy and uncomfortable while he claimed to be a reporter from Cambridge, Ohio. He had inadvertently admitted he didn't know where Columbus, Ohio was, even though the two towns are just a few miles apart. So who was the Mothman, and what was behind the strange events in Point Pleasant? Whatever the creature may have been, it seems clear that Mothman was no hoax. There were simply too many credible witnesses that saw something. It was suggested at the time that the creature may have been a sandhill crane, which, while they are not native to the area, could have migrated south from Canada. That was one explanation anyway, although it is one that was rejected by Mothman witnesses, who stated what they saw looked nothing like a crane. But there could have been a logical explanation for the sightings. Even John Keel, who believed the creature was real, suspected that a few of the cases involved people who were spooked by the recent reports and saw owls flying along deserted roads at night. Even so, Mothman remains hardly easy to dismiss. The case is filled with an impressive number of multiple witness sightings by individuals that were deemed reliable even by law enforcement officials. But if Mothman was real and he truly was some identified creature that cannot be explained, what was behind the UFO sightings, the poltergeist reports, the strange lights, the sounds, the men in black, and most horrifying, the collapse of the Silver Bridge? John Keel believes that Point Pleasant is a window area, a place that was marked by long periods of strange sightings, monster reports, and the comings and goings of unusual persons. He stated that it may be wrong to blame the collapse of the bridge on the local UFO sightings, but the intense activity in the area at the time does suggest some sort of connection. Others have pointed to other supernatural links to the strange happenings, blaming the events on the legendary cornstalk curse that was placed on Point Pleasant in the 1770s. Oh, that's also an interesting story. So the Native Americans cursed that land in the 1770s.
Well, yeah, because
fuck white people.
White people are mean.
They're the worst. And if such things can happen in West Virginia, then why not elsewhere in the country? Can these window areas explain other phantom attackers, mysterious creatures, and mad grassers? I don't know what that is. And more that have been reported all over America. Perhaps they can. But to consider this, we have to consider an even more chilling question. Where will the next window area be? It might be of benefit to study your local sightings and weird events a little more carefully in the future. And that is the story of the Mothman. Also, okay, so I want to throw this out. So to talk about how Point Pleasant could be like a window into like the weird. So also in Hellier, they track like other incidents like throughout the United States. Mm-hmm. And most of the like UFO sightings, they happen in a tri-state area. So where like 3 states meet. Mm-hmm. They happen where there's a major river with bridges and industrial. Like they find all these similarities between the towns that like this kind of stuff happens to. So they're like, well, what if because there's a bridge, you know, does it open a portal? Does it do this? So if you guys, and then I also read this super awesome conspiracy, or it's not really conspiracy theory, a theory that Aleister, you know who Aleister Crowley is, like the father of Satanism? Well, anyway, sure. Aleister Crowley. There is a theory that he used to do all these like super fucked up rituals, like his house in like England super haunted. He would do like rituals in like the pyramids and all this shit. Well, apparently he did like some really crazy ritual in New York City, and then like all these UFO sightings started up and down the East Coast. So there was like a theory that he opened this portal. Anyway, I thoroughly encourage you guys, check out the book Mothman Prophecies. There's the movie if you want to watch it, and definitely check out Hellier season 1 and 2. I really want to reach out to them and be like, dude, I totally believe you because I've had some of these experiences growing up. And it was like shit that I never even told anybody else because I was like, oh, my friends are full of shit. They didn't see a fucking secret military base. Oh, my other friend, yeah, maybe there was a baby haunting the woods. I mean, we were literally camping over a fucking baby grave.
Yeah, that's so weird to see like correlation like 20 years later.
Oh, and to bring it back to modern times, in 2016, there was over 40 sightings of the Mothman in Chicago in 2016.
Okay.
I'm
Random,
just throwing that out
Yeah.
there. And yeah, so that's the story of Mothman.
Yeah. Well, my hot take is I feel like it was like CIA psyops, and they dosed like an entire small town with like acid. And
I
they
thought
did
about
all
that
this weird
too.
shit.
I thought about that too because there's a movie that's actually coming out right now with Mark Ruffalo called Dark Waters, and it's about the DuPont family, or the DuPont industry, not the family themselves, but the fucking company poisoned West Virginia's water supply for like years and like covered it up. So like I don't think
like Aaron Brockovich type shit.
yeah, that's legit happened. So I thought about that too. I was like, what? Because the TNT plant. So the TNT plant was super active during World War II. That's where whatever. And then by this point, it was abandoned. But when it was still in production, it caused a bunch of like acids and shit to get into the environment and cause
to seep into the groundwater.
Yeah. So there's like this other theory that the Mothman might just be a fucked up animal that, you know what I mean? That got.
Oh yeah, it might be like a mutated
right.
animal.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think that's more likely. I
totally see that.
I could see that.
Like a mutated animal plus.
Right.
Like.
But there is this high strangeness that happens in this area of the Appalachian Mountains, and it's never really been. Nobody really knows why. So, yeah, weird. We should take a field trip.
Yeah, no, it's so weird. And like, you could speak from like personal experience.
Yeah,
too.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like I said, could be a dead baby that was crying. Could have been the Mothman. Because they also, if you read up on Bigfoot sightings, a lot of Bigfoot sighting people say that they hear crying in the woods either directly before or directly after they see Bigfoot. Like it's this reoccurring. Like there's just like these weird similarities in stories of seeing cryptids or UFOs. Like they have a lot of the same elements. And it doesn't seem to be even related. You know what I mean? Like there's just this weird, like there's apparently like some areas in the Appalachian Mountains where you go to these caves and there's humming coming from the underground and it can't be explained. Like it sounds like there's like a factory below it. Like it's hum, like an industrial hum, and they can't figure out why.
Oh, that's fucking weird.
I know, dude. I mean, if there was somewhere to hide, you know what I think it is? I think the government knows about aliens and they just keep them in the mountains in Appalachia, and you know they just want to party. So sometimes they come down from the hills and just fuck with the locals. I would. If I was an alien, I was like, man, I'm stuck here on Earth. I'm bored as shit. I'm gonna go and buy a dime bag from Daryl that lives up the road, and then I'm gonna go fuck with the locals. I'm gonna go fuck with some teenagers that are using the abandoned plant to make out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, and also I feel like technology like shot off really fast. Like we had these big blocky beige computers, and then all of a sudden we had these like crazy iPhone like advanced technology. It's alien technology.
Yeah, totally.
I'm telling you.
Totally. All right, well, I think that's it for us this week, you guys. Follow us on all social medias. Listen to us on all platforms. Send me ideas. Tell us that you hate us. Tell us that you love us. Send us suggestions. Project MK Gotcha at 3ms@gmail.com. And we will talk to you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Wait. I think we're also looking for people to interview.
Oh yes, anybody
subject matter experts.
Yeah, anybody that wants to collab or come on as a guest or anything like that, definitely reach out to us as well. I think there's one other podcast that we're possibly going to do something with, maybe possibly in the future. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we appreciate you guys so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye. Wait.